for today's flight, along with our Mission Insight Specialist, Jonathan Ritchie. Our Mission Insight Specialist is a new role.
Hello， 您现在收看的是太空旅行公司维珍银河首次商业飞行的直播画面。可以看到，目前在画面上是2位这个直播的转播员正在介绍相关的资讯。我们来听相关的流程介绍。
Both an acronym for Volo Italiano per la ricerca e la tecnologia suborbitale, or Italian flight for suborbital research and technology, and the Latin word for virtue that is also.
我们听到正在介绍这一次搭乘的这个组员啊，这一次的商业首航代号叫 Galactic One。这个银河1号主要搭载2名来自意大利空军与1名意大利国研院，也就是 research 机构的一个工程师。这位工程师比较特别，他将来是要登上这个太空站，外加一位已经搭乘过这个维珍银河上到这个太空边际，也不能算真的太空了，就是太空边缘的一位这个维珍银河的太空指导员。这3位这个意大利机组员是携带13项的实验用的器具啊，准备在微重力环境时进行实验，收集比较有用的数据，并实际体会一下微重力的环境。我们来听相关的背景介绍。
These racks hold payloads that are typically scientific experiments or instruments that will gather data while in space.
Today, our cabin has both seats and a payload rack to allow our mission specialists to maximize the research they conduct on board. The Italian Air Force and the National Research Council's mission will include more than a dozen payloads, which will be examining a spectrum of research spanning from the biomedical field, thermofluid dynamics, to the development of innovative and sustainable materials in microgravity conditions, leading to space technology to continue the innovation of human spaceflight in future vehicles and here on Earth. Now, our vehicle system is uniquely positioned to carry out this incredible science, contributing to our curiosity surrounding the cosmos, as well as increasing our understanding of our very own planet. The work done in space gets invested back into the people here on Earth. Now, I could talk about the science all day, but let's first check in with the vehicles and see how we're progressing. JR?
Yeah. Earlier this morning, we saw a perfect takeoff here from our runway at Spaceport America, and beginning our mission specialist ascent to release altitude. Mothership Eve is currently continuing that climb with Spaceship Unity on its way to the target launch altitude, which for today is 45,000.
现在这个转播人员正在介绍相关的设施以及这个飞行载具啊。那我们都知道，这个维珍银河是利用这个2阶段发射，先用这个母机，也就是所谓的夏娃号，要运载一个比较小的一个火箭动力载人太空飞机，叫团结号。他们今天是从新墨西哥州的美国航天港出发。这个地方啊，可以说是处在一个近似沙漠的一个中心位置啊。也是新墨西哥州为要发展太空航运所特别打造的一个太空港。
Was Colin, so it's really, really thrilling to see him go back to space a second time. We took moments along the way to soak it all in. The journey of space, I mean, it begins well before takeoff, and actually, it lasts.
他们刚刚提到这位 Collins。他是这个已经上过太空，也就是维珍银河的公司的一个同事啊。他是随行的维珍银河太空指导员。这一次4名这个搭乘团结号的成员当中，有3位是来自意大利有1位是这个随行的太空指导员，他是为这个实验跟飞行是提供协助。
Start with a vertical takeoff from the ground. This requires a huge amount of energy to lift the vehicle from a static start up through the thickest parts of the Earth's atmosphere. Our air launch system allows the spaceship attached to the mothership to take off from a runway like that of a commercial aircraft. This takeoff allows the passengers to have a much smoother and more comfortable ascent as they make their way up to around 45,000 feet And at that altitude, the Earth's atmosphere is much thinner, requiring less energy to launch. At our designated launch point, our mothership releases the spaceship, the rocket motor ignites, and our crew begin their rapid and exciting ascent towards space. Now, speaking of the crew, let's see who's on board today's flight.
刚刚您看到的是这个之前起飞发射的画面啊，在发射的过程当中，会先用这个银河的这个母机是夏娃号，运载团结号这个亚轨道火箭动力载人太空飞机啊，是飞到大概是45000英尺，将近是在15000公尺左右的一个高空啊，然后会释放团结号冲向80000到89000公尺太空边际。当然，这个所谓的太空边际啊。各个说法不一样，美国空军跟 NASA 是有个说法，国际上有所谓的卡门线，实际上是太空的边际，实际上是有所争议。现在画面上是介绍担任这一次飞行的飞行员的一些简介资料。
CRM, or Crew Resource Management. The left seat pilot is the commander, and the right seater is referred to as the pilot. But the commander and the pilot have specific actions that they perform in the execution of a spaceflight. Crew Resource Management improves safety in operations by emphasizing effective communication, teamwork, and decision-making among the crew members, leading to enhanced situational awareness and the prevention of errors.
So commander of Spaceship Unity today is astronaut Mike Masucci, who recently passed more than 10,000 hours of logged flight in a career that has put him in the cockpit of more than 80 different types of aircraft, including the U-2 and, of course, our very own Spaceship Unity. Mike's family comes from a small town near Avellino in the Naples area of Italy. Piloting Unity today is Nicola Pacile, one of the 5 Italians on board today. He has completed over 6,500 hours in over 150 different types of aircraft. Pacile serves for 20 years in the Italian Air Force, initially as a fighter pilot and later as an experimental test pilot.
现在正在介绍这个团结号，也就是子机上面的这个驾驶员。我们知道这个团结号上面是有2位机组员，另外有4名的成员。我们刚刚听到这个驾驶员他们的所谓的飞行时数都非常高啊，曾经有驾驶过不同的机型，有的甚至飞过所谓的 U-2 间谍机，另外还有这个是具有意大利背景的驾驶员担任这一次的任务。另外在画面上这一位刚刚看到的这一位是这个这一次的随行飞行太空指导员。另外接下来介绍是3位意大利的空军以及国研院的工程师。
Also be wearing cutting-edge smart suit that will measure his biometric data and his physiological responses. Next up, we have Angelo Landolfi, who is a physician for the Italian Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel Landolfi will be conducting tests that measure cognitive performance in microgravity. He will also be activating syringe payloads from his seat that will investigate how certain liquids and solids mix in microgravity. Our third mission specialist is Pantaleone Carlucci, who's an aerospace engineer and researcher for the National Research Council. Carlucci will be wearing sensors that examine heart rate, brain function, and other human performance metrics in microgravity, and will also be conducting these experiments from his seat. All 3 are contributing to exciting research and technology development with unique experiments. Once cleared to unstrap, 2 mission specialists will likely stay seated to conduct their work, while Walter will be unstrapped, tending to experiments in the back. Now, JR, let's take a break and get an update from our crew who's on Eve and Unity.
Certainly. So, Sarisha, I've just heard from our MC.
刚才听到就是说这个3位的意大利机组员所进行的一些实验项目啊，我其实也相当好奇，刚才他们在直播中也解答了我疑问，就是说实际上我们看过去的实验飞行当中啊，真正所谓的微重力状态只有短短的几分钟，大概只有4分钟左右吧。在这一段时间要进行这么多实验，有没有可能？刚才提到就是说2位机组员应该会绑在椅子上进行实验啊。 那另外有一位是松开在后面进行相关的实验，希望在这么短的时间可以完成这么多的实验，一切顺利。我们来听相关的一些背景的介绍。
Keep our pilots and passengers comfortable. At L-10, Spaceship Unity switches to her own battery power for avionics, that's the electrical systems on board, and control systems, and performs a series of checks, electrical checks, feather system checks, flight control checks, and more. Unity and Eve have their own intercom, so the pilots in each vehicle are coordinating with one another during these checks. You know, what's exciting about Virgin Galactic's spaceflight system is that it's powered by truly innovative tech while it also being a piloted system, being flown by some of the best and most experienced pilots in the world. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to attract the incredible team that we have. They get to pilot a spacecraft that's arguably one of the most unique vehicles in the world.
Thanks, JR. I mean, at Virgin Galactic, we believe in the power of curiosity. It is the driving force that compels us to wonder, to constantly ask questions, and to relentlessly seek the answers. Let's hear from some of the team about how curiosity is propelling the second space age.
At Virgin Galactic, we believe in the power of curiosity.
Humans are an adventurous species. It's very natural for us to want to go and explore space.
But we have an opportunity to be at the very birth of routine access.
您看到的是这个维珍航空的宣传影片哦。为了开发太空旅行体验，维珍银河可以说是耗费巨资，这几年亏损是不断扩大。去年的亏损是我所看到的资料是接近5亿美元哦。股价如果大家有买这个 SPCE 股票的投资人，应该有很深的体会，股价是自上市以来是大幅滑落。首次商业飞行虽然不一定能够帮公司扭转盈亏啊，今天的这一趟商业首航应该是具有这个特别的象征意义。我们可以看到过去几次他们都遭遇到一些问题，有的是飞出了这个准许的这个飞行区域，还有这个母机在承载上面发现在装备上有出现瑕疵需要修复，可以说是受到非常多的一个阻拦哦。那我们也看到现在这个维珍银河太空旅行的票价，原先从每张20万美元，以及涨到现在45万美元。有些乘客当初这个订票已经等待超过10年了，可以说是等了相当长的一段时间。我们来看相关的解说画面。
Data from this flight will be used for insight into physiology and pathology, but also be used to investigate biological processes for human spaceflight future missions, and to study and develop new agents for therapeutic purposes for people here on Earth. Now, this is just one of many experiments on board for this mission the crew will be looking after. And speaking of the crew, JR, can we get an update?
Yeah, so we're about 4 minutes out currently at this point, and the pilots are ensuring the spaceship is in the launch configuration after going through the various L-10 checks, confirming that all the settings are go for launch. This is also when Spaceship Unity will isolate the air supply from Eve and prime the rocket motor by opening the backup oxidizer valve. Once these actions are complete, the pilots will seek clearance from the MCC, that's shorthand for the Mission Control Center, for release. So MCC it consists of experts from various disciplines and departments across the company, and they're verifying checks with our crew every step of the way. I don't know about you all, but I can feel the anticipation building just watching the screen. I can only imagine what it would be like to be on board right now. It must be incredibly exciting.
Exciting is definitely an understatement at this point. You're just anticipating the release. I can't imagine what the crew it's feeling, and they're anticipating the release and really everything that happens afterwards.
你可以看到是目前现场直播在这个团结号机舱内的画面。现在飞行高度已经非常接近预定发射的45000英尺，也就是将近1万多、15000公尺的这个区域距离这个 release， 也就是分离发射，只剩下短短2-3分钟的时间。
After boost is feather. Now, sometimes when we say feather, we mean the tails of the spaceship, and sometimes we're referring to moving these tails into what we call the feathered configuration. It can be confusing, but I'll try to be clear what I mean when I say feathered today. So, due to the law of conservation of momentum, feathering the vehicle, that's rotating the tails to 60 degrees, causes the cabin of Unity to start a backflip maneuver as it approaches our next phase, apogee. And this backflip is a key part of the experience because it maximizes the view of the Earth below. Our pilots use the RCS, that's a reaction control system, to hold the spaceship in that attitude. And then at the right time, the pilots will...
距离这个分离发射只有1分半的时间。
This prepares the vehicle for re-entry. In the feathered configuration, the vehicle presents a large area of the wing to the atmosphere, allowing our system to burn off energy while still high in the thin atmosphere. And then after re-entry, the feather is once again lowered and locked, turning Unity into a glider. It's in this configuration that the pilots will fly back to Spaceport America in what we refer to as the glide phase. You see, our system is capable of acting like a capsule when that's most beneficial, and acting like a glider when that's most beneficial. Now, MCC's in my ear. They're telling us we're 1 minute away from release. Our next set and our last set of checks before release.
距离分离发射不到1分钟的时间。
Spaceship Unity pilots will arm the launch pylon, and once we get to that designated launch point, the mothership pilots will engage the release, setting Unity free. Meanwhile, the spaceship pilots will push forward on the stick all the way, preparing for a release. We're now approximately 20 seconds from release.
好的，距离发射只有15秒。
10.
8秒钟。
3, 2, 1, release, release, release.
OK， 现在这个团结号已经分离，而且火箭已经点火成功。
Good control. Trimming, that's turning.
大家可以留意一下这个最下面这个右边最下面这个数据，就是马赫它的速度现在是不断加快。现在差不多是1.5倍的音速。
That's the maximum dynamic pressure on the vehicle. Those on board are experiencing about 3 Gs at the moment.
现在这个速度是不断的提升哦。我们可以看到今天直播是跳过这个起飞盘旋的阶段，直接进入这个团结号分离发射的阶段，所以看起来在直播画面相当流畅。后面就是这一次的实验设备。哇，这个已经到2.8马赫，这个速度非常非常的快。
Mach 2.8 rocket motor cut off.
好了，引擎熄火。现在是在一个微重力的一个状态。
Predicted apogee today is 275,000 feet. That's 84.3 kilometers.
Incredible.
哇，现在高度。
Our mission specialists have been cleared to unstrap and enjoy the zero-G experience.
This is amazing. What you're seeing is
因为时间有限哦，所以可以看到大家要赶快启动，是来进行实验。在靠近画面这一位是飞行指导员，2位坐在椅子上的是赶快进行实验，有1位是到后面是操作仪器哦。这个时间非常非常有限。马上要进行的返航仪式，这个意大利的这个操作人员还特别拿出一面这个意大利的国旗，也可以显示在一个无重力状态下的一个状态。
And welcome to space astronauts. How absolutely incredible. Benvenuto nello espacio. Congratulations to Walter, Angelo, and Leo on becoming astronauts today. And a special congratulations to our pilot, Nicola, for his first space flight. Welcome back to space, Mike and Colin. This is absolutely incredible.
Wonderful.
You can see I'm tripping over my words because I can see all the excitement here. And we've also trained our astronauts as part of our training program to, at apogee, go to the window and take a look outside. So you're seeing them take a look and really reflect and take in the view, because all of the science and all of the research that they're conducting on board is for that vehicle.
你可以看到右边的第二个数据啊，它的高度已经在下降，也就是说，现在团结号是利用滑翔飞行进入返航的模式。
Achieved apogee at 85.1 kilometers or 279,000 feet.
Incredible.
现在已经降到大概
completing the backflip maneuver, orienting the vehicle for reentry. Now, just before 0.1 Gs, the pilots will give that return to seats call to the mission specialists.
我们可以看到，这速度是维持在这个1.8马赫左右，是在返航的滑行模式。这样的飞机是有特别的设计哦，它是利用滑翔的方式能够进入返航模式。这时候必须要赶快在这个座位上固定才能够安全的返航。我们也可以看到，随行的太空工作人员是在协助机组员是进行这个位置上的固定，现在这个高度不断的降低啊。
And just back to 1G as we begin reentry.
And those views are just absolutely amazing.
Yes. So for reentry, we're now at about 3.6 Gs for those on board. The crew will orient the attitude of the spaceship so that when we come out of reentry and feather down, we'll be pointed toward spaceport. We're now subsonic.
现在速度已经降低了，是低于这个音速以下。
As a vehicle that can get into this feathered configuration, we're a glider, we're a rocket, we're a glider, and we're a capsule at the right phases of flight that help our unique design be safe and effective for the mission it's at.
That's right. We're at 61,000 feet now, continuing to descend in the feathered configuration. When we get down to about 53,000 feet, the pilots will command lower of the feather again and reconfigure the vehicle back into a glider.
The views are just so incredibly amazing all the way down, and it's just part of each phase of flight.
我一直在观察这个成员的表情哦，想了解一下，这个是一个很舒适的体验呢，还是一个非常高这个重力、高压力的一个状态？
So you get hypergravity and low gravity data and that transition in between.
The feather is almost completed the feather down. It is now down and locked.
Those watching from Spaceport America, now's a great time to go outside. Unity will be coming into view, and you can cheer on the crew as they return.
刚才可以看到地面上有许多人在等待这一次商业首航。我很想了解一下目前这个正在开盘的股市目前的一个状况，因为今天早上实际上这个维珍银河的股价是没有涨，它反而是跌的，现在大概跌到20美分左右。
I'm so excited. A future astronaut, a friend, and a space researcher, Kelly Girardi. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I gotta ask, how are you feeling having watched this incredible crew go to space today, knowing that you're going to be there on a future space flight?
It's surreal, I have to say. Just the energy.
现在在返航的模式，还有一段时间，飞机就是团结号的，以滑翔的方式会重回新墨西哥州的美国航天港的发射场。
And the Virgin Galactic workforce and mission control. And it's emotional. I remember during your space flight when I heard release, 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 I burst into tears, and I'm glad that my mic was off during the live cast, but it's the profundity of human spaceflight, and I'm so ready to be on the other side of this live stream.
It's incredible. I mean, this is my 6th spaceflight, and you probably saw I was tripping over my words. I just couldn't get it out because of the excitement.
Exactly.
And so you're on a future dedicated research mission. Could you tell us a little bit about the science that you're going to be conducting?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm flying on a dedicated research mission. I'm representing my research institute, the International Institute for Astronautical Sciences, and I'm going to be doing healthcare and fluid research in space. I'll be wearing a wearable sensor system to take biometric monitoring. It's called the Astroskin. It's currently worn by astronauts on the International Space Station, but my flight will be the first time we're collecting data during the launch, re-entry, and landing phases of flight as well. And then fluid research. To help design, I'm going to be looking at how fluid behaves in a container in microgravity during flight, and that can help inform new designs for life support systems or syringe design for administering medication in space, things like that. So I'm very excited.
I can't wait.
Me too.
I cannot wait.
在画面右边是目前的座舱内的画面，可以说是讯号还相当清楚，这个让我非常的意外，就是说实际上是在一个返航的一个过程当中下一个值得观察的重点就是团结号降落的一个画面。团结号并不像一般飞机为了减轻重量有全部的机轮，它是有所谓的这个虚拟式的一个降落架。我们等一下降落的一个画面。
You need high quality microgravity, and you need longer duration exposure to microgravity. You need to be in space. And so I'm really looking forward to the availability of Virgin Galactic as a platform, not just for the scientific community, but for academia, for students, for so many. So I'm so excited to get to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you did not plant this question. Everyone watching should not plant this question, but Kelly, I loved your book, not necessarily rocket science.
I did not plant that question.
But part of the appeal of suborbital vehicles is really opening up the aperture of who can do science and technology. And this is just another science lab for people to utilize to further whatever field of research that they're in. Can you talk about some of the other research fields that are utilizing these kinds of capabilities, maybe even at IAAS?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really multidisciplinary. It's not just space science. My colleagues come from such a wide variety of backgrounds and fields of research.
I've been particularly motivated by some of my colleagues who are doing research related in space, related to the quality of human life here on Earth, human health and well-being, whether that's biomedical or pharmaceutical.
刚刚在这个聊天室有看到大家讲说股价这个并没有起色，可以看到现在美股是4块36左右已经下跌了这个将近38美分。
Industry for a while, and can you talk about what drew you to the commercial space side?
Yeah, absolutely. I have long been
an evangelist for the commercial spaceflight industry, and I've really been inspired by it. I have a deeply rooted belief in the potential of this industry to open up access to space, to truly democratize access to space, certainly for science communities and for the research community like myself and the crew of Galactic 01. But also for civilians of all disciplines. I really do believe that the space age is a broader cultural movement and that our next giant leap will require the talents of artists, engineers, and everyone in between.
Space is our shared past and our shared future, and that's why I wrote not necessarily rocket science.
Okay, well, we're going to be getting to landing soon, but I wanted to ask if you had any parting thoughts before I release you to go cheer on the crew as they return to Earth.
Yeah, just awe, excitement. I'm sure you can tell. I'm just, it's amazing to be here.
从机舱外的摄影机已经可以看到这个地面的景象，所以距离地面的高度应该是相当接近。
But to me, it will never get old.
Oh my God, thank you so much for
joining
us here.
I'm going to run down and welcome that crew back.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, this is just an absolutely exciting time for the research community. I mean, the excitement off of Kelly is just palpable, and I can't wait for us to be cheering her on as she does her research in science and space soon. So
距离只有这个11000英尺啊，已经相当接近了。
For those of you here on site, Unity just crossed over the field and is making another circle around in the pattern, beginning those landing approach, passing the waypoints that we've designated as part of our energy management plan. So the pilots have joined up with Chase in the pattern.
地面已经可以拍摄到这个团结号滑翔接近地表的一个画面。
And for those non-pilots tuning in, those numbers represent the first two numbers on the magnetic heading of the compass for the runway direction. So for example, 34 is 340 degrees. The landing gear is now down and locked. We have 3 green. That means all gear are down and locked. And we're making our final approach to the runway here at Spaceport America.
可以看到后面是跟拍的小飞机。
That's because the commander is in the left seat, and that provides the best line of sight for them as they come into the.
按照计划，所谓的母机夏娃号应该是已经回到地面。
America is 12,000 feet long. That's 3.7 kilometers and 200 feet wide, or 61 meters.
距离地表只有5000英尺多。
1,000 feet above the runway. 500 feet.
右边的这个读数跟实际上播报似乎是有一点距离啊，现在已经进场了。
Over the threshold, that's the beginning of the runway.
还是非常稳的啊。
And you'll see the pilots hold the nose up. That's a flare maneuver.
后面2个是机轮，前面应该是一个假的鼻轮，为了减轻重量。
Main gear touchdown. So the pilots will continue to hold the nose gear in the air as we continue to bleed off some energy as we run down the runway, and at the designated airspeeds, they will
前面是
lower
应
the
该是一
nose
个滑行的支
gear
撑
as
架，
well.
在最后的时候才会清楚地面。
Nose gears down.
现在可以看到清楚地面，可以说
Now,
是
as
成
our ground
功
speed slows,
安全
when we
的
reach a designated
回
ground
到
speed,
地面
the pilots
可以说
will apply
是
the
相
brakes
当
and
流
bring
畅
the
的
vehicle
一
to
次
full
直
stop.
播。至于真实有没有取得实验数据的成功，可能要稍后才知道。这个所谓的高度可以看到，因为新墨西哥州地势比较高，所以它基本的这个距离水平面高度有4600英尺所以没错，刚才回来的距离地表的高度是1000英尺左右。
And there's wheel stop.
非常安全平稳的降落在跑道。
What a beautiful landing and a perfect way to complete our first commercial flight and our first dedicated science mission.
Congratulations to everyone on board, our very own spaceship Unity, who returned to space today. We saw beautiful flying from our Eve crew, Jamil and Kelly, and brilliant work by our chase pilot, Dan Alex, all of whom are still in the air right now. Great job to you all. Now, we still have one more guest here in the studio with us, Italian Air Force Major General Maurizio Cantiello, who's the Defense Cooperation Attaché at the Embassy of Italy in Washington, D.C. Benvenuto, General. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for hosting.
Well, I just have to ask you, how are you feeling today after seeing...
现在是欢庆的阶段，我们可以看到他们邀请特别来宾来到这一次的直播间要来讨论一下这一次的一个计划跟经验。事实上，留意这个所谓的 SPCE， 也就是维珍银河股价的朋友，刚才说现在是跌的相当凶，现在跌幅已经高达这个8%左右，8.86%左右，甚至到9%那不知道股市今天稍晚会不会反转不过我们也在这边同时留意这一次成功进行商业首航，以及这一次股价在直播当中的一个变化。好的，今天直播进行到这里，非常高兴可以看到这一次的 所谓的商业首航一切这个平安顺利的进行。今天的直播就为您进行到这里，谢谢您的收看，我们下次再会。如果关心这个太空相关的资讯，也欢迎加入我们的订阅，然后能够常常留意我们的直播。好的，谢谢您收看今天的转播，我们下次再会。